Hello, world. Welcome to the Mile High Fi podcast. I am your host, Carl Jensen,
I'm Doug Huntington.
and we have a very special guest today. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Hey guys, Jay Money. What am I now? A curator? I'm so used to saying I'm a blogger, but I sold my blog and haven't been doing it for a couple of years. I'm a random straggler online that loves money. How's that?
That's great. And I have a new name for you based on your appearance. I haven't seen you in a while, and you've got this huge beard. And the first thing I thought of when I saw you is another Coloradan named Ted Kaczynski, otherwise known as the Unabomber. He lives at the Supermax a couple hours south of us. So when I first saw you, I'm like, holy crap, the Unablogger.
Hey-o.
Okay, so I first crossed paths with you way back in 2013. I'd started my blog in January. I don't remember how we started talking, but you invited us to do a guest post on Budgets Are Sexy. And I think I kind of freaked out a little bit. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's got a big blog and we're so new. We can't screw this up. And you were super professional. Like, oh, we got to make sure all the pictures are legit. And we got to make sure this is on the up and up. And I remember freaking out a little bit, but that was the first time we were like our first breakthrough, I guess, because you start blogging and you're talking to like three people and the other two, one is you, the other two are your family members or friends. And that was our first breakthrough. And I remember it was how we're teaching our kids about money. So thank you for that. We've seen each other off and on at these conferences, and it's been cool knowing you the whole time. And I feel like my life has kind of come full circle because here you are on our podcast.
Hey, and remember you used to write for Budgets. You had a weekly column for a few months too. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. That was pretty stressful too. Yeah, I don't think I could handle it, so it didn't last long, but I really appreciate you letting me do that too. That was a lot of fun, and those were some good articles.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of your content. So, and you obviously are also, I guess I wouldn't be here if I wasn't.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And you're one of the bloggers who I think is pretty pure. Like you could tell when you read a blog and people are just in it for the money. They've got this weird voice, but you definitely had a unique voice. But I always thought you were real, and your underlying goal was always to help people. Of course, you made money, but I always thought you were one of the people who always had the right thing in mind, and you would always do the right thing. So I appreciated that. And not everyone's like that. I would say most probably are not like that.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, yeah, it is true. And, I definitely struggle internally. Actually, I was just watching and participating in a Twitter stream about like going with your heart versus doing the things that is going to help grow your enterprise more. And a lot of the stuff that you have to grow, do to grow big or make a lot of money is usually not the stuff that you would do naturally, especially with online stuff and SEO and monetization. So there's definitely years where I struggled. I wanted to stay pure, but then I also wanted to do it for a living. So I kind of just settled in do it enough to to have this dream job, but don't overdo it. And like I didn't need millions of dollars. I just wanted to blog for a job. I just thought that was the coolest thing, and it worked out. And, I never made as much money as a lot of the big time bloggers, but I sure as, have a hell of a time doing it. And I'm glad that it resonated, with you, that it wasn't like, oh, I was just trying to make money or whatever.
Yeah. The thing is, something you said though, if you go with your heart, it might not be the quickest way to make money, but people see that and they appreciate it, and you'll still become big. You'll just do it in a roundabout way because you'll gain your audience, but you'll do it the right way. You're not relying on Google. You're relying on yourself, which is what you should be doing the whole time. It's more pure that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've done the same thing. I mean, I've loved your content. I tell people a lot, like my favorite bloggers are when they first starting out because they're so real and raw and usually funny, and they just don't they're not trying to build this huge thing, or, they're just natural. And that's why I loved, when you first came on, but you're still the same way now as you were back then, your content is still the same. And so I think that's, what makes you a great blogger, as well. So yeah, big kudos to you.
Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate you saying as much. So let's get into it. And excuse me. I was just, before we started, I was telling you how Doug and I went to FinCon, and You wisely avoided it. Doug and I both came home with the virus. We're fully vaxxed, but we got breakthrough infections. Anyway, they were not bad. So if our voices sound a little worse than usual, mine, Doug has a beautiful voice. If my voice sounds a little bit worse than
We
usual,
haven't heard from Doug because you're doing all the talking.
Doug, yeah, we'll get into, Doug usually does more of the talking, but we'll get into him in a second. Uh, Tell us about the time when you went to buy an apartment and ended up with a house.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that was the beginning of the journey for me. My fiance and I at the time were just looking for a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment to rent. I've always enjoyed renting. I like the freedom. We actually turned the wrong way and went down this street and there was a house for sale. It was a townhouse. And it was near some water and it was just a beautiful thing. And there was a sign, hey, call this number if you're interested. And I wasn't interested because I was trying to rent, but we just did it for fun. And that realtor, one of the best realtors in the world, was there within an hour to show us the place, to like get us, our numbers right, and I thought, well, everyone else in my life is getting married, they're buying homes, they're having kids. Like this is the right thing to do, the right step. Again, no, not even trying to get a house yet. But then one thing led to another. 48 hours later, we owned the house. I think it was around $350,000. No money down. It was right when the market, it was 2008. So the market was shaky. It had started to go down. Then it went up a little bit. And we're like, oh, this is like an investment, right? Everyone says your house never goes down. We bought it. And then, the whole world knows what happens next. And it all crashed. So for that reason, that was a horrible financial decision. But the nice thing about it is it forced me to pay attention to my money. So I think that weekend I went online and I was like, how to budget, I didn't even have a budget. I didn't know where any of my money was. And that's when I came across blogs and I thought, holy crap, people are just sharing their number, their net worth, seeing a net worth from a real person was the biggest epiphany. It was just the most amazing thing because no one ever does that. And I got hooked and I started reading blogs oh, this is good. I started bettering my own finances. And then I got a little bored and I said, I'm going to start a blog myself and talk about, drinking beer and saving money. And I'm going to try and be funny because all the blogs, especially back then, even today, a lot of them are just money driven, right? They're kind of boring. So I was I'm going to go and shake it up, and one thing led to another and here we are. So.
Wow. So what happened with that house? Do you still live in it or what became of it?
No, so we lived in it for I think 6 or 7 years, and a little background. I come from a military family, so I'm used to moving every couple of years. And when I went to college, of course, I'm on my own. But my brain is still 1 or 2 years that they're all temporary, which is reason number one: never buy a house if it's only temporary. But we lived in it, and then finally I was like, I got to get out of here. I'm going stir crazy. But we couldn't sell it because we were, I don't know, negative $80,000 in equity at that point, somewhere around there. So we became accidental landlords, which we didn't want to do, but that, gave us a couple of years to kind of figure it out. And then eventually we ended up selling it. And then we went back to renting, which I loved. And I think we brought to the table, even to get rid of the house 10 years later, we had to spend $15,000 or $20,000 just to get it off of our plate. Which is crazy because, again, real estate never goes down, best investment, blah, blah, blah. And so we went back to renting, which was beautiful. And then my wife dragged me to own again. So we are back to owning, but with a much different mindset and financial situation than the first round. So.
Right. And what do people miss a lot of times with the renting versus buying debate? I purchased a place in around 2006. So I really got hosed and eventually it went into foreclosure, a strategic foreclosure situation, which turned out to be a great financial decision. Seemed very risky, but it was the best swing I ever had. So what do people miss? You mentioned, you love renting. So what good things are there about renting that people often miss?
I don't know if they miss it. I think they just get so caught up in the whole narrative of it, home being a good investment and I think for me, I think a lot of people don't pay attention to their personalities. I love the idea of freedom. I love being able to get up and move if I want to at any time. I don't, I should also say I'm not a DIY person. I can't fix anything. So anytime something breaks, I'm the opposite of Carl. Anytime something breaks, I have to call someone. And just like those phone calls, like even when we were landlords, like, and we had a property manager too, so we still had a buffer. But anytime they called or reached out, like it was never a good thing. They never said, "Oh, rent's on time." No, it was always like something broke, and just like that dread, I still feel it inside me when I think about it. Like I just hate the dread of it, you know. So for me, it's like knowing yourself really well if it's a match for you, even not even thinking about the finances. And then if you are thinking of the finances, are you going to be in here for 5 or 6 years at least? Do you have a cushion of money savings? A lot of people always forget, not in our world because we talk about it a lot, but like an average person, they're never comparing apples to apples, right? They're forgetting about all the maintenance costs, and maintenance alone, like not only is it stressful, at least for me, but like it's financially draining, and so I think people just don't understand fully until they're in it. And then at that point, really, like, are you going to stick with it, or are you going to adapt as your values change and as time changes to make a big move, get rid of it or stick it through? So I think it's like a mental challenge that you're always doing. And I'm a big fan of people changing their minds. And even if they're like, oh, I'm going to go do this, and then a year later they find out it's not for them, like, screw it, like change it. Your life's changed, your mind's changed, like adapt. And I think people kind of get stuck into like, well, I'll look stupid, or, I made the decision, so now I got to live with it. Right. So I don't know. I think about like all that kind of stuff more so than, just the money part.
Right. And I think one piece that we miss as well is we only hear the great stories. Like you said, there's a narrative, like real estate always goes up, and, it can be a good investment if you have the timing right and the right location and so many other variables. People are not telling their stories when they lose a bunch of money, like my foreclosure issue and all that kind of stuff, because we're not going around bragging that we made like a poor decision. We're just not telling those stories in the same way.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I've been thinking about housing, and I thought the tide was kind of turning a couple of years ago. I remember Paul Pant had a really good article about how owning a house isn't what everything is cracked up to be. And it was really great. It was super long. She had all these numbers down there. I'm like, okay, good. Because for the longest time we had the American dream is to buy a house. And I think it was even with the Bush presidency, one of his things was to get everyone into a house. Everyone should own a home. So, But it seemed like things were kind of changing a little bit. But now COVID, one of the unexpected effects of it is housing has gone crazy. So now we're in this crazy time where all these people have FOMO, and I should have bought. I was talking to a friend, Ray from Waffles on Wednesday. He's like, man, I should have bought like 6 months ago. So now we're back. Now we're back to where we were, maybe even stronger. Everyone wants to own a house again. And it's, and now is one of the few times where it might've been good to actually be in a house, but usually that's not the case. I think houses go up at the pace of inflation, and that's been the same since like the 1880s. So definitely.
Well, and also, even if your house goes up and you're trying to flip it and make money, like unless you're going back to renting, you're just going to spend as much money to get a new house. So it's not really that great unless you're capitalizing on both of the sides. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You're like, hey, this is a priority, and I'm happy to spend a little more. You mentioned beer a couple of times. I know Carl and I will spend some money on beer. So are there any other high priorities?
Coffee. I'll spend $10. Well, I don't drink fancy coffees, but if a cup of regular coffee costs $10 or $20, I would still spend it every single day. Like that feeling of just like going to a coffee shop and getting one, like, I don't know what it is. Like that is like the happiness is higher than a lot of other things. So anytime, obviously, people say to make coffee at home, which I respect because a lot of people don't like coffee as much. Like I'm just like, oh God, like that would be like the last thing I would do. I'd give up alcohol before I would coffee, to put it that way, Carl. And
wow. I love coffee too, but I think I can make it through the mornings easier than the evenings without beer. I don't know.
You must have a lot of kids too.
No kids, funny enough.
Oh, wow. Then it's probably Carl then, spending time with him.
That'll definitely cause people to drink up. Some trivia about me. I've only had coffee once in my life. I had it when I was like 8 or 10 or 7. I went to a friend's house. He's like, let's act like adults. Here's some coffee. And I'm like, this tastes like
it's probably disgusting.
Yeah, I'm like, this is disgusting. This tastes like shit. I'm never drinking this again. And here I am 40 years later, still never having tried it again. But maybe Next
Wow.
time I see you, I'll try it again, and I'll see if my
Okay.
perception changes.
There you go.
Yeah. Has your one final question before we close out the Lexus segment? Now that you've got more money, you're in a better place. Has
Yeah.
your spending changed? Have your thoughts on happiness changed? I think we got into a little bit of this. Like, I'm not afraid to spend money on coffee. That makes me happy, or beer, which are small things. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I think when my net worth was around 400, 500, that was like the peak of where I'm like, wow, I feel secure. I feel like I can make decisions without worrying about my budget or spreadsheet or consequences. And like even as simple as like being able to go to a restaurant and just ordering what you want, like regardless of the price, like that's like first, like that to me was like the biggest change of happiness. And not worrying and knowing as I was having a family that will be secure, not rich, but like stable. And then, so I used to do my net worth report. I'd share it online for, I think 12 years straight. It was around 50,000 in the beginning, some of the money came from blogging. Some of it came from other projects. And then when I sold all of my projects, we tipped over $1 million mark. And so it was exciting to hit it in a way, like just as a personal achievement, but like I wasn't happier, I guess. And it didn't really change my life as much. So to answer your spending, I don't spend, more or less. I think I spend similar. I think that the only reason our spending goes up is because we keep having kids. But like they're in public school, and with COVID and stuff, we were considering private and what that looked like. And just the ability to even consider private, which is like super expensive, like that was a nice ability to have, and even though we chose against it, like that wouldn't have been possible if money wasn't, where it is. If that answers your question.
And when you hit that $1 million net worth mark, was that a big milestone? I know sort of mentally that's a benchmark for a lot of people. So what did that mean to you just hitting that spot?
I tell you, it would have meant a lot more in my 20s. Like when I first started blogging, I was into money, but I was just more into like having money, and like I just wanted to be a millionaire because I thought it'd be cool. Like, and so, like the privileged white guy going out, like no responsibilities, right? Like I just wanted money, like a lot of people do. As I got older, and especially with kids, I realized there's more to life than money, and so like that wasn't exciting to that degree. Like it wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be in my 20s, hitting a millionaire, being a millionaire. But it was personally fulfilling, just to do it. And then honestly, when that happened, I was like, my first thought was like, I can just be lazy now. Cause like, what am I going to shoot for like 2 million? Like that's not nearly as like fun or exciting. Like I felt like I did get a little lazy at that point. But no, it's not. Like I think honestly, the journey of like sitting down and paying attention to your money the first time and knowing where you want to go, like that journey was by far more rewarding and happiness levels, because you're checking it off, you're learning and you're growing. And by the time you get the money, your mind is already like over like lifestyle design, and that's what I learned. I went from wanting to be a millionaire because it was cool to like wanting to have like my ideal life, and so and the cool thing about that is a lot of people who are chasing money, like you're chasing money, but like hopefully you're going to do something with that money to make your life better, and I think a lot of people don't realize they can make changes throughout their lives before they hit that, little things. So I think for me, I started blogging about money, make money, hustle, 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 don't sleep, you're the man, to like, no, wait a minute. Like, I don't want to work as much. I started selling stuff. I started thinking about life. What's the purpose? What's my legacy? Like your mind changes over the years. And so now to me, the purpose of money and everything is to have that ideal, lifestyle.
And I think maybe now is a good time to ask, what does a perfect day or maybe set of days, like a week, look like for you?
Yeah, it's all the same, honestly. It's wake up around 5 or 5:30. I enjoy waking up in the morning and having peace and it being a little dark. Working on a project that I believe in for a few hours. And then when the kids start getting up and off to school and stuff, helping with that, maybe going to a coffee shop for an hour or two and working. And then by lunch, just, doing whatever the family wants or I want. It's very simple. That's honestly, and whatever I'm working on, and that's the reason I ended up selling my blog, because I wanted to have the freedom, but I knew that like I enjoyed the blog and other projects, but as long as I keep swapping it out, it doesn't matter to me what the project is or if I own it. I just want to do something I enjoy, and I have that time slot every morning. And that to me was like enough to like keep me busy and engaged and have my, brain power. And then after that, I can be lazy or I can do something personal fulfillment. So that's literally all my dream is just to work a few hours in the morning and then do as I please the rest. And, that's where we are now. So it's a good life.
Perfect. And is that like 2 or 3 hours a day, something like that?
Yeah, sometimes it's 2 or 3 hours. Sometimes like I'm working on a project with the Motley Fool called All Star Money, and so sometimes some weeks, I'll work 5 or 6 hours. Some days I'll work 10 and then I'll work 2 the next day. So it fluctuates. But ideally, yeah, by lunchtime I would be done and not open up the computer. And so for me too, like talking about again, getting to that point, before I was able to get to that point, I said, well, all right, well, I'm working nights, I'm working weekends, I'm working, 10-hour days, sometimes 20. Like, let's just stop working some of those, So I cut off weekends cold turkey. And that alone was game changing because I didn't realize how much rest you needed. And I didn't realize too that I still got all my stuff done, because on Friday, I knew if I didn't get it done, I'd have to wait till Monday. And it's magical. Like when you have to get it done, you get it done. And so I lost if anything, I was more efficient. Then you had the weekend to rest, which is good for family. And then by Monday, I was so excited because I'm like, oh, I missed the online community. I missed, and I wouldn't go on Twitter or Facebook. Like it was completely no money online stuff, no work. And so that alone really amplified it. Then I was like, let's stop nights. So we cut that out. And then I've just been dwindling it, ever since until I got to this point,
Yeah, one final thought on this whole segment is a minute ago you said once you got to the $1 million, you said, back up a second. I don't think I'm phrasing this correctly. You said people could be doing things to enjoy their life before they get to these numbers. And I think of that with myself. I'm in a unique situation, and I don't want to diminish it at all. I'm very thankful to be where we are at as far as money, but I don't want anything else in my life. I'm pretty content just how it is now. Now that I can have anything, I don't really want anything. And then I think back, I'm like, well, my life looks the same as it did before we had this money. So you should have appreciated it back then and just been happy with it back then, because you like your life now. You don't want to buy any stuff, but I don't know. It's some stupid mind. I wish I was better adjusted. I guess you want stuff when you can't have it, but then when you can actually have it, you don't want it anymore. I don't know what that is, a paradox or something. But, yeah.
You probably want like more real estate or flipping. You like the personal challenges with home. Like my nightmare is what you dream of when you go to sleep.
Yeah, I don't really. I don't want to do anything to make more money, but I like the challenges in the house. I just built a shed, and I'm going to start putting solar panels on my house next week. So,
oh gosh, dude.
Yeah.
You need to come over and build me a skate park at my house. I'm into skateboarding recently, and like that is like a dream to have a custom thing, and which I know you and or Mr. Money Mustache could probably do, like with your eyes closed.
I would do it. I was saying on the Earn Invest podcast with Doc G, my favorite idea of a trip would be going to see friends for a couple of weeks, but then drinking beer, hanging out, but doing some work too. So maybe work for a couple hours in the morning, building you a half pipe or quarter pipe or
you're hired.
Whatever.
You're hired.
Yeah. I don't know. Should I make you sign a waiver if you break your hip?
No, I will, because I'm an old man. Yeah.
Yeah, don't break your hip.
Dude, when I go to the skate park, I'm the oldest, and they're like 18 and 19-year-olds, like all around me doing all this stuff. And they look at me like, I'm crazy, but I love it.
Did you just start getting into skating at this point in your life?
I did. Yeah. Totally random. Yeah. Hanging out with my kids one weekend, and they wanted to, we found a skate park. We didn't know it was there. And they like, those, what's it called? Not roller skates. The scooters. They like scootering. And so they were like challenging each other to go down the hill. And I was like, well, I'm not going to like sit here and just like watch you. And I get antsy, So I just brought their skateboard. I was like, I'm going to do it with my skateboard. And they challenged me, like these 8-year-olds challenged me to go down the ramp. So of course I had to do it. And then I just loved it. I did. There's something about it, because it's like fulfilling and you can try tricks. but it's like healthy too. Besides when you get hurt, like you're actually exercising a lot. And I don't know, and you're meeting all kinds of people that you would have never met. So yeah, I just immersed myself in the last 4 or 5 months, and it's been, yeah, it's silly to say, but it's like my favorite thing right now.
Yeah. That's awesome. It sounds terrifying. I think we're probably around the same age, but if I took a little spill, I'd be out for like weeks or a month. I don't know. Have you had any injuries? Like, is everything going okay?
Yes, right now I have a foot fracture. I'm not allowed to step on it for a couple weeks. Yes. Yeah, my wife hates it because she's like, dude, if you get hurt, like you're managing the kids, right? She works full time, so like, how are you going to pick them up and drop them off? And I'm like, well, I'll just stop myself before I get that hurt, But then at the same time, like, I guess it's the thrill of skating. It's like, I'm doing it. I know I could get hurt, but like, I just have to do it for some reason, And there's a dude there that like recently like fell on his face. And like, I didn't even know that you can hurt your teeth because I just, I'm new to skateboarding, and he broke his teeth. And like, I saw him like 2 months later, and he was there skating. I'm like, oh my Lord, like you're back. And he's like, I just love it. Like, I will never stop. And I was like, wow, just to be that passionate. I don't know if I could be that passionate, but so far my hurts, my breaks haven't been too bad. And you learn to fall too. There's like things you can do to fall, like where you don't hurt yourself as much, that I'm learning. So I've been fairly lucky so far.
Man, be safe out there. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, Doug, I don't know if you know this, Doug, but there's a skate park like right by your house.
It's so close. Yeah.
We can walk there. It's made out of concrete, so there's potential for serious injury. But I've got a skateboard. I've got like this old Tony Hawk thing. I'm going to upgrade. I'm going to get a better one, but I'll bring him over and we can go hit the skate park.
Okay.
Teach you how to ollie.
I would love to see that.
Okay. Let's talk about the budgets are sexy. What is you talked a little bit about the origin of it before when you bought your house and you started paying attention to money. Is that where budgets are sexy came from?
Yeah, once I wanted to blog, I was trying to, get creative, and that song, Justin Timberlake, "I'm Bringing Sexy Back," was on the radio. That's how long ago it was. And I love that song. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna bring like money back. Yeah, I knew the sexy like should be somewhere. And back then it was when blog rolls were a thing, in the sidebar, you could see like what people are reading, and it was always alphabetical. And so I was like, I gotta pick one that's closer to the top. Like that was like the extent of me scheming. And budgeting, I just started doing, and I knew it was like the opposite of sexy. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. I'm gonna try and make budget sexy. And then, as I got going, like I realized like budgeting, to me at least, like gives you confidence. Or even tracking your net worth, which I eventually stopped budgeting and just tracked that. Like that gave me confidence, which then in turn, right, equals sexy. So that was kind of the theme. And I just wanted to talk about money, like as a normal person, and to have fun. I wasn't trying to like be a teacher of money really. And especially because I was still learning myself. So I was one of those people that I only blogged about whatever was in my mind. I never like strategize. I never even polled my audience. What do you guys want me to write about? Because I knew if I didn't want to do it, I wouldn't. And then I'd look like a dummy, So that was like the only thing that kept me going, like having a schedule where I posted every day. And then that schedule changed, but like I never missed the schedule the whole 10 or 12 years I was blogging, helped as well. But I just wanted to have fun and not be so serious. And even towards the end of that, I realized that I started becoming more serious because it, like you, Carl, you mentioned, like it changed my life. It changed my money, but all of a sudden you're learning about business and marketing, and you're learning about how the online world works, and you're meeting friends and you're going to conferences. And so it becomes like your life in a weird way. And it's all online, which is really weird. And so like I caught myself, I knew like I was being more serious than I wanted. Like I wasn't towards the end of the journey being the same as the beginning of the journey. Like I knew too much where I couldn't go back and be as real and raw and just have fun, But that's where it started. It was just trying to get people, like I wanted people to think about money and get sucked in. And then once they were interested, like go to all my blog friends where they would teach like more in-depth stuff that I couldn't teach or wanted to teach.
And you always had fun content too, and content that probably 90% of people wouldn't touch. And I'm thinking about the phone sex operator.
That's the number one. That was the number one when I sold how to be a phone sex operator, which I of course did not write myself. It was a guest post. Widely successful. Yeah. And I've had people say, hey, I want to write this, but there's no way in hell I'm putting it on my site. Like, can we put it on yours? And I'm like, yeah, that's great. So it was fun. It was a fun journey, and even, there's sometimes I want to write something now. It's nice to have that outlet. Like I could still write if I wanted to over there. It's a cool community. And I think unlike a lot of other communities, like it's generally positive, I would say in our space, and like people are genuinely trying to help and learn and have fun. It's not as, cutthroat as a lot of others, even though I know like with the fire movement, it's got a little bit spicy up in here, but it's all good. It's getting people to talk and think about it.
Yeah, it's I would say there's more collaboration here than competition. I think we all help each other out. And the story that I told earlier, how you invited us to guest post on your blog, is a perfect example that you gave us a big boost and willing to help out with no expectation of anything. I didn't pay you.
Yeah,
And
that's cool.
I think most of the people in the community are like that, or at least the people who are in it for the right reasons, which are probably most people.
I would agree. Yeah, 100%.
And you shared your net worth for, I think you said 12 years. Was that something that made you a little nervous? Did you have any backlash by doing that? Can you just tell us about that decision-making process?
Yeah. So the first reason I did it was because that was like the craziest, coolest, most beautiful thing I'd ever seen when I entered the blogging space, like as a consumer. And mymoneyblog.com was the first blog that I really attached to. And Jonathan, he's still blogging to this day. I mean, it must be 15 or 17 years for him. But he was one of the first ones I saw that said, here's my net worth, my savings, my debt, my credit card, my house, like everything. And because it affected me so drastically, I said, if I ever start a blog, that's going to be like the one thing I know I'm going to do, because it forced me to stop. At first, it forced me to like, well, what is my net worth? I have no idea. So it got me to track, which is beautiful. And then like, I just looked forward to it. And as you went over the years, it grew and grew, and you eventually stopped sharing it. And for me, again, I think I started with around 50,000 net worth. So it was cool to see the journey. And also I should say too, because I usually have a mohawk and I'm being irreverent, is that the word? Irreverent, and I'm cursing sometimes, and I'm not your typical money person. Like a lot of people like don't think I'm legit, or they like get turned off. And so I think accidentally, by sharing my net worth and seeing it grow over time, like at least it gave me some credibility, even though some people, thought I was like lying or whatever. Giver myself, and then harness what we've learned online to do good rather than build ourselves up the whole time.
Okay. So I've got one thought and then another thought with a question for you. My first thought is, I think a lot of people in the personal finance and the FIRE community are in a unique situation to really give back, because I think we tend to be really conservative. How many articles are there? I mean, there's whole blogs based on why you shouldn't pay attention to the 4% rule, why you should do like 3.12848 or whatever. So I think the net effect of this is a lot of people are going to end up with a lot of money that they're not going to need. So we're in a unique position to give back. But the thing I struggle with is I don't want to come off as too preachy. But on the other hand, I can give X amount away. But if I announce it online, maybe I can, my real power might be inspiring other people to give, because I can only give so much. But if you could inspire 20 or 30 other people to give back, you could probably do a lot more. And that's kind of what like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg are doing with their giving pledges. I think they're each going to give away like 99% of their wealth, which is
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it still leaves them with a lot. So how do you balance that? How do you motivate others to try to give back without being too preachy and without coming across?
Yeah, well, I would say like, with the project, so with Love Drop, and then when we had Rockstar Finance, we had a community fund, and the general thing was the same. Everyone can participate in their own unique way and very small. So again, you could just donate $1 or an hour of your time, or knit a hat, and you can participate in something bigger than yourself, because we gave them the platform. So I think letting them participate in a way that made sense to them, and it wasn't a huge bear like, oh, you have to give $1,000 or 10 hours of your time, like I think makes a big difference. I will say with the public versus private. So when I'm private, like my favorite thing that I'm just realizing the last couple of years, if I see someone that I know can need help, let's say it's like, I don't know, I don't want to give an example because I'm trying to be anonymous, but instead of normally I'd say, oh, hey, let me do that for you. And then just like give them money, which kind of sometimes people don't like that. Like it rubs them the wrong way, or they think that maybe you're trying to, look good. Like I do it anonymously, and that for some reason being anonymous makes it like 5 times better for me. Like it's like, okay, I'm going to help them and they're not even going to know it's me. Like if it's like an accomplishment, I feel like it makes me feel good. Like you're trying to do good and you're doing it without the acknowledgement, you know, like, I don't know, but that doesn't help you obviously if you're trying to help people and use your powers online and harness everyone, because then you have to tell them we are helping, you know, like join with me. But I think you could do it in a way. It's like, hey, I'm giving, you know, $10,000, join me. Like everyone's gonna be like, what the hell? You know, I don't have that and you have millions. So like, you know, it looks bad. But if you're like, let's help this person, here's why I'm donating, you know, can you donate with me? Little every, you know, even $1 helps. Like that route tends in my experience to help, you know, or you give more behind the scenes, but they don't know how much you're giving to like not come across as icky, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's cool. You're not worrying about virtue signaling or any of that type of shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shutting down your
Yeah.
ego.
And I think too, like knowing yourself too, like I knew that giving to a large charity doesn't motivate me. Right. I think they're great and they do probably better work than all the small ones, right? Because they're so efficient now and good at it. But I knew that. But the problem I had is I stopped myself from giving them. I'm like, oh, that's the only way. So I'm just not going to do it. You know, so I think knowing you can give, and this is again, like going back to the example of, you know, if a homeless person walked up to you and asked for money, a lot of people say, no, they're going to use it for drugs, or no, like that, whatever. But then I think like anyone asking you for money like is in a horrible spot, first of all. So like even like and then you have judging, you have all this stuff, right? But like helping them, knowing that $5 is more for them than I can do for $5 or 20 or whatever. Like I accomplished my personal mission of trying to help them. What they do with it is beyond my control, you know, but like I know that what I'm going to do with $20 versus them is going to be different, you know? But so I think knowing yourself is helpful. And then finding out what motivates you, you know. I see these birthday pledges too. I've never done it where people are like, hey, don't give me a gift for my birthday. Like donate to this charity of mine. Like, I think that's a brilliant idea. I love when people do that because it's like, oh, you're showing what's important to you. And they're going to spend money on probably random crap to give you anyways. Like, why not divert some of it to do good? You know, that's a cool way I've seen it done.
Yeah, very cool. What's made me a little bit hesitant is, if there's anything true about the internet, is that no matter what you say, there's always someone on there who's going to get mad about something you say. And I think Pete, like he wrote a post about how he gave, I think $20,000 to 5 different organizations. So $100,000. And Pete's very methodical, very stoic. Like, here's what I did.
Right.
Here's the data. I gave it to these efficient charities. And then you go in the comments and people are like, you're an asshole. This charity did this and this and this. Like, you made the world a worse place. And oh man, like shut up. And I guess you just have to ignore it. I think those people are actually the minority, and maybe we shouldn't even bring them up or talk about them because most people
but that's true. You
like
get hate even when you try and do good. Yeah, for sure. You know, like, yeah, it's like the tax write-off too. Like, oh, you gave just for the tax write-off. Like, dude, you're spending more money than the tax write-off you're gonna like get. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like financially, that's not true. You know. And again, and even so, even if it is purely for that, like at least you're doing good in the world. Like you can only hate so much on that, regardless of your reasons. So, yeah.
So, do you have a donor advised fund? How do you give efficiently? Because just real quick, the tax breaks are one thing, and people could hate on you, but that allows you to give more money away in the end. So those people can shut the hell up.
Well, and so the downside, I'm glad you asked that. The downside is when you like to give like I do, I'm not going to get any credit for giving someone off the street or like helping, you know, a group of people or, you know, an idea. Like a lot of there are some people in our space that do projects that aren't technically charities. And so I give to them $20 or $30 a month. Oh, the automation too, I meant to say, helps me if I automate giving, just like investing or saving. Like that alone prevents me from backing out or changing my mind or even having to think about it. So my goal is to have like 100 places that I donate $20 or $30 to every month. So and it's all automated, right? And so, but going back to your question, so the way that I like to give, I can't do any write-offs because only a few of them are technically, you know, 501c3s. That is the downside of it. I can't get, you know, any tax stuff, but again, I'm doing it to help them. But I am, because I will say that what the fire community is really good at is these donor advised funds, like you mentioned. And you do see that a lot more in this space, especially than you used to. And that is something that I do want to figure out. I would love to have a way to efficiently give more and better, and it be passed on to like my kids to kind of control after. I just don't know how to do that when I'm helping people the way that I would like to help now, because to give from those accounts, you have to give to reputable, charities that are, vetted, and that, I don't know if there's, expense ratios, if that matters in that part, but like I can't give like $1,000 to someone off the street and then get a tax write-off, so that's the downside of it. And again, well, it's important to note too, like for some people, like probably you and probably Mr. Money Mustache, like you derive more happiness and like purpose giving $100,000 effectively, knowing that could produce maybe $1 million worth of good, right? Like that probably motivates you guys more and like, makes you want to do it more and gets you to do it more. Whereas for me, that part doesn't matter at all because I just want to see the person's face, or I want to know that I helped directly that one person. So I'm always trying to help one person instead of like groups of people, which is good and bad, and you need both of us in the world. So, so I don't know if that answers it, but yeah, these are things you have to think about.
No, I like that thought a lot. And one funny story I have on that is I've been working on giving with my children, trying to teach them to be charitable. So we have them pick out a couple different charities every month, and we send money. And one of them they picked out a couple months ago was the Arbor Day Foundation, which is this huge organization that plants trees. So we sent them, I think we divided it up between 5, and we sent them $200. And the only thing we've gotten from the Arbor Day Foundation, it's a great organization. I think they're efficient and all that, but now
they're asking you for more money.
Yeah, they ask for more money. And the funny thing is it comes in these big print envelopes, like in the mail. So the Arbor Day Foundation is sending us dead trees in the mail, asking for more money. Like, Arbor Day, I love you, but could you just email me your newsletter instead? And some of them are big packages too. Like, oh, there's dead trees in here. Like, Arbor Day, what the hell are you doing? Arbor Day, you're great, but change that part. But,
well, and you're that thing that you mentioned too. Anytime, so there are some bigger ones that I've given over time, and they always email me or contact me, and it's never. I mean, it is a thank you, but it's always a thank you. But can you give more? There's always I want more. And obviously that turns people off. I know that marketing, it's good and it probably works to a degree, but you're right. Yeah, it is and it's funny too, actually with Love Drop again, like I think our slogan was like, give $1, change a life. Like it was some like cheesy thing. It was true, but it was cheesy. And I remember people saying, hey, can I write off this dollar I'm giving you? And I said, no, we spent 6 months trying to become a charity. And basically legal is like, you can't give the way you want to give and be a charity. It doesn't work that way. And so we said, screw it. We're just going to give how we want to give when we're not going to do the charity. And so some people got mad. I want a tax write-off for every single dollar I give you, and we're like, well, then we're not the project for you. Right. Like it doesn't work. And the downside, going back to your other point, is that I think within the first month, we had some corporations reach out to us that were really big. And they were like, we'd like to give you like $20,000 to help. And we're like, yes, like this is great, right? You know how many people we could help with that? But they said, but we need to be able to write it off. And so we lost them. We couldn't, so that sucked. But again, like we wanted to give the way we wanted to give, or else we wouldn't be doing it. And so, yeah, it's a weird one.
I'm going to call Doug out on something real quick. Not call him out. I'm going to praise you, Doug, and maybe embarrassing you. But there's other ways to give back. We've been talking about giving money, but Doug volunteered for a local organization to help maybe underprivileged communities start businesses. And you don't necessarily have to give money. You can give your time, which is very cool. In my opinion, a bigger ask, because if you've got infinite money, it's easy to write a check for $100, but to have to show up every week or every other week for a whole year is a pretty big ask. And I know Doug did that, and that was his form of giving back, so you don't have to give money. Do you have any comment on that, Doug?
Thanks for recognizing that. But yeah, it was a huge time commitment, but kind of like you're saying, Jay, you're helping individuals, and this is in our community. So like these businesses are local here. So there's no like better way to like give back, help people, build their business and give advice and connect people when you can. So yeah, it was hugely rewarding, a big time commitment. Like you said, it would have been much easier just to write a check, but the effectiveness was, much different sitting down and working with individuals.
Well, and you're using your superpower. Like you're using your skills that you're good at. That's more valuable than the money. Because if you help them and get their brain right and build it right, they're going to be much more successful. So you're using your what you're really good at in a positive way, which I love. That's great.
Thanks.
So Jay, are you working on anything now? If so, if people want to help you out or contribute, could you tell us more?
No. So that's the one thing I need to figure out is what project, as far as the doing good. I am working on, a project with the Motley Fool called All Star Money, where like it's another kind of Rockstar curation site. But it's just given, I mean, I guess it's kind of giving education, right? We share 3 articles a day on money from our community that we think are good. So that's what All Star Money is. But as far as the charity or project, no, I'm kind of like anytime again someone asks me, I give to them. So I'm participating, but I haven't spearheaded my own project in a number of years since Rockstar Finance. And so that's one thing I do struggle with, because I'm like, how to use the maximum good, like all the connections we have online, right? And I think I'm like, if I'm going to email Carl and ask him to participate, like it better be damn good, I don't want to make do something stupid and waste that opportunity to make more impact and to so unfortunately, and two, for me, I don't want to see a cause because I like people directly, but there's no like, I haven't been motivated to like, I want to help this specific area, or this specific problem. So that's something that I'm struggling with and trying to come up with. But if you do have a project you're doing as a listener, especially if there's something you want to do and literally money is the only thing holding you back, or if you need some consulting, I can help with that too. Reach out, because I love hearing, my favorite is hearing ideas like, oh, I need 500 so I can go put on this course at the library and help, the local community. I'm like, yes, damn it. Like, do that. Like, I will give you money to go do that. Like, that is like, so I'm right now open eyes and trying to find people to help, since I don't have a project in myself to help,
And if I can ever help you with any of these adventures, or if you get pinged by someone that needs money, please don't be shy to hit me up as well.
Okay, well, I have it in recording now, so yeah, I'll remember that. Yeah,
and so does the rest of the world, apparently. So we might be asking for some trouble, but
we'll
see what
you guys blow off. We're in trouble here.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say on this topic, or?
Oh, no. Just thanks for having me on, and if anyone wants to reach out, you can find me at jmoney.biz, J like the letter money.biz. You can find me on Twitter and all that good stuff. But I love talking about money and thinking about money, and more, I guess I should say lifestyle design stuff. Like, I think that's my one takeaway that if I could share with others, is just to think about what you really want in life and what like makes your dream, like your dream day, and kind of work backwards to try and figure out how to get to that, and don't wait till like X number of years with X number of money. Like, start implementing the little things daily, so that way it's like enjoyable along the journey, and not like you, Carl, like you wrote something recently how like you were miserable for a number of years trying to hit that goal, and if you can go back, you would have figured out ways to be less miserable and not like do that to yourself, so I think that's the same kind of thing that like I've learned over the years as well.
Yeah, if you set yourself up, my mindset was always like, I'm going to be so much happier. My life is going to be different when I have $1 million. And then you get there and life is pretty much the same, except you have money sitting there. And it sounds so cliche, but money isn't the root of happiness. It definitely makes life better. I don't want to diminish it. At my life, I'm thankful for it. But I don't know. The most fun time I've probably had in the past couple of weeks was I went over to a friend's house on Sunday to watch a football game. And we hardly watched a football game because we were just hanging out, cooking, and having good conversation. And that doesn't cost much of anything except buying a 6-pack of beer for $9 from the store to bring over. And those are the happiest points in my life at this point.
It's a good life, man.
It was awesome catching up with you, and we'll put links so people can find you. Thanks a lot, Jay.